Hey, Creek Week!
It's Creek Week again.
Welcome to the Creek this week.
Like it happens every 7 days.
It's
like
it just
52
keeps
of
going.
them a year.
You're wearing the same thing you wore last week.
I know. Well, the magic laundry fairy filled my drawer again.
So we're in this series called Elemental, and it's our way of framing the spiritual gifts, conversation of the Bible, by grouping them. And last week we talked about the yellow, the wind gifts, which are these supernatural gifts,
Sign
gifts,
Yeah.
and so we talked about just how everyone gets one of these gifts. You're not like nobody's left out of the gift giving. You know, nobody gets around.
Not
the
everyone
Christmas
gets a sign
tree.
gift necessarily.
That's right.
Because there are other categories.
Right. So
Yeah.
when we talked about gifts overall, and this week we're gonna talk about leadership gifts. So these are the red gifts. We're calling these fire because they relate to vision, setting direction, setting doctrine, which is the job of teachers, and also evangelism, spreading the church, expanding the church, evangelists, missionaries, apostles. So, Dan, talk a little bit about the red gifts, because now are we getting to the place where people can kind of kick back in the easy chair and say, okay, this doesn't apply to me, because, you know, it's the red gifts. Those are the pros.
Yeah.
Those are the paid professionals.
Yeah,
Is that it?
No, it's not. Big surprise. Do you know what a rhetorical question is? I do. So yeah, but that's kind of a cultural thing, right? That the evolution of the church to become what we encounter now has become a place where we kind of expect a vocational person. Right, so we model our polity and whatnot after these ideas. We have professionals here, a CEO, a CFO, these sorts of things, and they're paid to do this job. And that's not invalid. It's just not directly connected to giftings. And so I think we can culturally fall into this idea of, oh, well, leadership, that's what the paid professionals in the church does. And that's not it at all. You can lead in the nursery.
Yeah.
Working with the kids. You can lead in a small group. You can lead in a ministry that's handing out food to folks. Leadership is required in all kinds of settings, whether it's leadership through teaching, leadership through apostle, which is really just the gift of kind of entrepreneurialism. It's kind of like, I have an idea.
I start things.
I'm going to start a thing.
I start things. Yeah.
And that can be I'm just going to start a new kids ministry or whatever. That's that gift, that fire gift at work. So I think that's one of the biggest things that we've got to overcome, is to realize that every church is filled with people who have the fire gifts. Yeah. And they work in schools, and they're dentists, and they're landscape workers, and stay-at-home moms.
It also seems to like there's a passion element to this as well, isn't there, Dan? Where you basically could have two different people. They both have the gift of teaching, let's say, and one of them has a passion to apply that in a certain arena, whereas another has a completely different passion. Both gifted by the Holy Spirit to teach, both glorifying God and edifying the church, but in completely different ways. I remember when I first became a believer, here's how I discovered that I had the gift of teaching. Everyone traded around the obligation to give a devotional. And
Which is a little mini sermon.
A devotional is like a mini sermon. It's really all it is just, Dan, bring your latest insight from reading the Bible or your relationship with Jesus. That was all a devotional was. And everyone did it because everyone had a relationship with Jesus and everyone had a Bible. But when I did this, and I'm not setting myself apart especially, this really is the work of the Holy Spirit. I would do this, and then the people around me, people in the council or the youth group, 20 or 30 kids, would come and say, that opened up a door for me. I understood that verse better than I had before. I was inspired to follow Jesus more because of what you did. And it was a lot of that affirmation that said, when I teach, I feel that I'm carried along in some sense by the Holy Spirit. There's an uncanny effectiveness, but it was in the realm of meeting my peers. So then, to get back to the passion issue, someone said, hey, you're a leader in the youth group and you're on fire for Jesus. So I was a senior now in high school. I'd been following Jesus for a couple of years. And they said, hey, we got a shortage of Sunday school teachers. Let's throw you in with 5-year-olds. And I said, sign me up. I'm a teacher. And by that time I was starting to get the idea that that's my game. Like this is my bag, baby. And wow, was I lost. Like Like I remember bringing what I thought would be a great object lesson, a parrot, to illustrate creation or something like that, and these 5-year-olds are ducking for cover because it was a scary looking parrot. Like, ah, they were crying. I was like, I'm absolutely failing at teaching, even though I said, wait a minute, I'm a gifted teacher. Well, passion. So the application of teaching or leadership or apostleship or evangelism can be different depending on your unique passion.
Absolutely. And not just passion, but I would say personality too.
Yeah.
Because you can have a teacher who is an extrovert. You and I would probably qualify generally as like, I don't have a problem getting in front of a big group and teaching. But then you can have teachers who maybe are more introverted,
Yes.
and in a small group setting is going to be the right place for them. They may
Right.
kind of freeze up and
Right.
not do their best work in a large, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different things God manages, because like he's God, to give out the gifts the way he wants to. And so leadership and evangelism and these fire gifts, it's important to remember that they can be expressed in all kinds of ways, not just in these larger vocations.
Right. So wherever you are, whoever you are, AC3, you have at least one gift, probably more. You've been graced by God to honor God, to worship God, and to build the church with your special gracing. So
Some of you may be uniquely gifted to talk about tractors.
for example,
That's
wait a minute, we're bringing that out from last week? Look at this. Did you know they sold
can't believe
175,000
I
of these
brought
units?
that up. I did it to myself.
That tractor was bulletproof, man.
did
That
it
put
to
John Deere
myself.
on the
Why
map.
would I? It's
It
like
made
I
it the
took it, I went-
preeminent
I spun
tractor
the
manufacturing
revolver
company in
and just
the
click.
world. I mean, that's why people restore John
And
Deeres
this
to this
time,
day. They're faithful to that brand
Why would I do
because
that?
green makes the world go round.
done this
That's what I'm
before.
saying. This is a really special piece of iron. That's all I'm saying. It's big American steel. And it was incredibly powerful. It was a huge evolution up from the 30 series.
Blinking SOS.